I have a poem by Raymond Carver, the novel. He's a short story writer and poet. He's unfortunately died. But I got to see him read with his wife at Beyond Baroque a year or so before he died. This is called The Author of Her Misfortune. I am not the man she claims, but this much is true. The past is distant, a receding coastline, and we're all in the same boat. A scrim of rain over the sea lanes. Still, I wish you wouldn't keep on saying those things about me. Over the long course, everything that but hope lets you go. Then even that loosens its grip. There isn't enough of anything as long as we live, but at intervals, a sweetness appears and given a chance, prevails. It's true, I'm happy now. And it would be nice if she could hold her tongue. Stop hating me for being happy, blaming me for her life. I'm afraid I'm mixed up in her mind with someone else, a young man of no character, living on dreams, who swore he'd love her forever. One who gave her a ring and a bracelet, who said, come with me, you can trust me. Things to that effect. I'm not that man. She has me confused, as I said, with someone else.
Oh, that is lovely. Wow. The receding coastline of the past. That's wonderful. Who wants to go next?
You.
All right. Well, I actually wrote a poem this week. I had an experience and I felt compelled to write about it. It's called The Waiting Room. I sit in my car before my appointed time and wonder, do I want to know or do I not want to know? It doesn't really matter because I have finally chosen this time and there will be an answer and someone will tell me what it is. I sit in the main clinic waiting room, filling out paperwork with information I have written 1,000 times in my adult life. And I notice I am barely breathing. My chest hardly rises. So I take a bigger gulp of air and sigh as I exhale it slowly out through my lips, like blowing out a birthday candle. Except my wish now is very different from what I wished on my last birthday. I am wishing now that I had not come here at all, that I didn't need this test and its results. An irritatingly smiling and chatty attendant gives me a gown and points me to a dressing room. I look in the mirror as I put on the gown and my eyes seem to have sunken into my face. I check the instructions on the chart on the wall over and over. Tie together the strap from the right side of the gown to the strap inside the left side of the gown. There are too many straps hanging from the gown, different from the picture on the wall. I feel as if someone will flunk me if I do this incorrectly. I think to myself, oh, for heaven's sake, just tie the damn thing. I secure my belongings in the locker assigned to me and walk into the small waiting room surrounded by the rooms with different imaging machines. 5 women sit wordlessly there as I choose a chair. Everyone is looking down at the floor or scrolling on their phones. We sit in uneasy silence for several minutes. Then a large woman breezes into the room, filled with energy and laughter as she clutched the gaping fabric to her torso. They gave me a gown that's too small. I'm busting out all over. Everyone laughed. Everyone looked relieved, and all of a sudden we began talking. Millie, who paid $100 to fill up her van before driving here. Megan, who has 5 grown children, several of whom don't want to have their own kids in the midst of our country's health and political issues. Judy, who has 2 young kids and had to sit with her overly active 5-year-old all year on Zoom while he attended kindergarten online. And I, who forgot my paperwork from the doctor ordering today's test, and who, while on the phone with my primary doctor's office to get it faxed, searched through my purse to see, did I outsmart myself and put it there last week? And I suddenly panicked because I couldn't find my phone and my purse. Oh no, where did I leave it? As suddenly I remembered my phone was at my ear. Lots of laughter at that one, all of us recognizing our humanness. A uniformed woman appears at the door and calls my name. It's my turn for a mammogram. Everyone cheers. If someone gets to go, maybe everyone else will finally get a turn and be able to leave and go on with our lives. I walk behind the nurse, filled up with the companionship of the last 15 minutes, no longer nervous at all.
Wow.
How did it make you feel to write about it?
It was really nice to write about it. It helped me to remember it. And the progression was really so consistent. It's like I was just a bundle of nerves, and then little by little it just went away.
Great.
Yeah.
I think it often that is a help, a reason for writing.
Mhm.
That was just my experience with mammograms too, except that I had 2 different guide dogs with me that caused some additional
Oh,
problems.
I never thought of that.
You should write about that, Abby.
Well, I did tell the story, and I guess it was the storytelling one. Now I realize that what Jean said could be a poem, so I could write stories like that and call them poems and tell them here.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And even changing from a narrative to a poem is work, and it's good for you. I think good for me.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. I think we'd enjoy hearing those, Abby.
Well, next time, actually, there was one that I did 3 months ago when I had a doctor's appointment. I had trouble getting in Mel's car, so we took Uber. And on the way back, they didn't tie down my wheelchair correctly, so I tipped over and hit my head. We had to wait for a supervisor and, incident report and all that. So it was 3 o'clock by the time I got home, and my head was sort of spinning. So
How scary.
Yeah, it's a poem, though.
yeah. I just recited a poem, yeah.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
But I guess there's kind of a coda. I decided I would get my own accessible van and have people drive it for me, and it's worked out wonderfully.
That's a great idea. You did that then?
I did it. My financial advisor isn't speaking to me, but I've got my own Dodge minivan.
That is
Wow.
wonderful. Taking matters into your own hands.
Yes.
That's good. All right. Well, Carol, do you have something to read?
You know I do.
I do.
Well, today, this is another Fred influenced me. Sometimes he writes a poem and someone said, when did you write that? And he said, this morning. So I wrote a poem this morning. And I'm going to tell you what happened afterwards because it really made my day start better. Anyway, here it is. It's called Ode to Mrs. Thacker, who lived next door. Oh, Mrs. Thacker, dear Mrs. Thacker, who cooked for them all up in the hills so high. Mr. Thacker had bought a steak, not that kind, the kind that just might make them rich one day, or so they hoped to say. That was then, and this was now. The summer Chuck was a ranger, and I waited tables, living in a shack next to Mrs. Thacker's shack, just like ours. She no longer cooked. Up high in the hills, she lived alone in her shack, just like ours, a collection of desert glass turning colors outside on a table. After that summer, we left our shack. Mrs. Thacker, she kept hers. We wrote for a while. She made our baby a thing to keep her warm. And then we wrote no more. I miss Mrs. Thacker.
Ah,
Oh, wow.
oh,
What's the line? She made our baby something?
Yeah, I struggle with that line. I could change that. She made our baby a thing to keep her warm.
Oh, so you had a small baby at the time.
No, we had one when we got back to Iowa City.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Wow.
ah.
Where were you living?
This was Camp Verde, Arizona. And we were given the shack because Chuck had a summer job as a ranger at Montezuma's. The sink to wash my dishes was made of wood. We had no table. We found one of those telephone spools out in the desert. We rolled it in, and that was our table to eat on. And it was fun. I mean, so some of it wasn't fun. It was really hot. There was no air conditioning. The afternoons were unbearable. So I got a job as a waitress. So in the afternoon, I was in the restaurant, and I was cool. And, anyway, it was an adventure. It was lovely, and everything was, it was fun. We were very near the Grand Canyon. We went there a few times.
Was it just for the summer?
Yeah, it was a summer job. Yeah. Yeah, Chuck was still in school, and I had just graduated from Iowa, and I was about to start a job as a speech therapist in Cedar County, home of somebody like some president like Calvin Coolidge. I don't know if that's anyway, some president that I don't know.
Oh, it's so much fun to just get a little glimpse of somebody as a younger person.
I suppose this is a tiny town. There was one gas station, one general store, and there was a good-looking Indian sitting out on the porch all the time. I don't know what he was doing there, but he was there. And maybe there was another restaurant, but I think this was the only one. And I got a lot of people from.
Oh, golly. Just when we're getting to the good part.
It was. Anyway, it was interesting. I got a lot of small-time movie stars to wait on and things like that. Oh, and I had this Indian guy. He had a bracelet and rings. You wouldn't believe they were big. He had a watch that had claws made of turquoise to hold it on. Oh, beautiful.
Wow.
And his wife was in velvet.
Oh my.
Those were the days.
Great.
I have an older poem. It's called Collision. It's in two parts. Part one, I know we are going to collide. We will bang heads, smile, and say cheese. Our logic is a circus, the thrill of having a religion. Simple wisdom lying is worn in pockets. Must this confrontation go on? Our conflict of interest just another shady deal? Weasels wail out at the sleeping moon. My nerves lie waiting to steal us blind. 2, nomads traveling in different directions. Yet we stop here to kick up the dust and look at each other in reckless amazement. Our wounds are left speechless. Our blood breaks from its mooring and floats out to sea. We are left with strands of empty veins. Our souls are caravans lost in the desert. We are desperate for an oasis. We are on another angry road, preparing for collision.
Oh my.
That's a good one. Is that yours, Fred?
Yeah.
My.
Wrote it this morning?
No, that's a few years old. That's a couple of decades ago.
Well, I think you spent time on it and you did some revisions too, because it seems very complete.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? While we're here, why don't you tell us, did you go to Matilda's wedding?
Oh, yeah, I went up to Spokane, Washington, and she's lucky she made it on a Friday, made the wedding was on a Friday, because that whole weekend, the city was booked, every hotel. There was a big basketball festival going on. They closed down 90% of the streets in the city for people to play basketball in the streets. There was thousands of people all over. And on top of it, there was a food festival going on in the parks and by the river. But Friday, you could get around town pretty easily. It was starting to build up. And I was a little late to the wedding. I I misused my GPS on my phone. I turned the wrong way, I guess, and threw everything off kilter and couldn't find the numbers on the street right until someone said, "Hey, you look confused." And I said, "I am. I'm looking for this address." And he said, "Oh, that's East Main Street. That's on the other side." And I got there, and she had it in an old factory that was remodeled a little bit. And it was up in a balcony where everyone sat, a small party of 30. And then downstairs after the wedding was the reception. Reverend Janet married them. And Jean and John Brennan and their children were there. Hurley Jim was there. There was students from their first college, San Jose State, and then students from the next school they were at, Washington University. So, and his parents, and of course, Matilda's mother. And they had it catered, and they had little desserts and a wedding cake, a small wedding cake, but there was enough wedding cake for everyone. So it was real nice. And they
Oh,
had a DJ, and they're on their way to Nebraska. They might be there today. He's going for his PhD doctrine, and is getting all of it paid for by the university
wow.
in
Subject.
Lincoln,
What's his
Nebraska.
subject, do you know?
What?
His subject, what's he studying?
Oh, I keep forgetting the name of the horn. He's a musician like Matilda.
Oh.
And he's got a specialized horn that not many people play. So there was three programs where he knew who he heard about the teachers that teach that horn for a PhD. So he picked three, and this college is paying for everything.
Yeah.
What
it's a-
kind of horn it is? The only funny name I can think of is the flugelhorn, but I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a flugelhorn. I can't remember. I kept getting told, and I can't remember. So
Right, is it someone I might know?
no, he's lived up in San
The
Jose.
bride. The bride, I mean.
Oh, that's Susan Lawmiller's daughter.
Susan hasn't come to church lately, but in the last number of years, but she's the head of our trustees committee, and she's running the rebuilding of the ceiling and roof.
Oh, she's important. I should know her.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's very important.
Uh,
And
Yeah.
you're the godfather, right?
Yeah, and I'm her godfather, and she wrote me a nice card that she gave it to me that said, it was because of you that I met my husband, because you brought me into music.
Wow.
Kidding.
I mean, when she
Oh.
was a baby, or even I played all kinds of music for her, and by the time she was in 4th grade or 3rd grade, she was in a dance recital dancing to Ella Fitzgerald, and she was the only kid in the class that knew who Ella Fitzgerald was.
Of course.
Hey,
And
good for
we
you.
played everything, everything that I have, and in the car. I just remember one time we were really stuck in traffic on Santa Monica Boulevard. The freeway had been stopped, and so everyone was in the streets. And Emerson, Lake and Palmer came on the radio, and I said, "Oh, you got to listen to this." And she's listening, and the synthesizer comes up in the middle of the song and just bursts out, and she like flipped out. She was so excited over it. It was unbelievable.
Wow. What was the name of the group?
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, they were a progressive rock band. He was a keyboard synthesizer player.
Wow.
And
Good story. Good to hear all this stuff,
And
Fred.
I used to take her to a lot of concerts at the Pier, and I took her, actually, we went to the Hollywood Bowl because one of her favorite groups was the Beach Boys.
Oh,
And we got to see Brian Wilson do a whole album of his work live.
wow. Oh, that's nice. I'm glad that she's happy and
Oh, yeah. They went to Hawaii on their honeymoon. They had a free place to stay and they went first class.
Wow.
On his parents and Susan helped them out. So they went first class.
Nice. Oh, and I wanted to just take a moment to say hi, Fran. Are you there?
Middle
I noticed
of
you.
the country.
I think she disappeared.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Oh,
Jean, do you have another one to read?
I do. Let me just get rid of this. Sometimes she goes in and out, so hopefully she will come back in.
Who is she, me?
Fran.
Oh, Fran was here. I didn't see her.
No, we don't see her. She usually comes in without the video and listens on in her car. So I bought a couple of little poetry books, and Robert Frost, one of his poems is one of my favorites. It'd be nice if I could find it. Here it is. The Road Not Taken, my favorite.
Lovely.
Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both and be one traveler. Long I stood and looked down one as far as I could to where it bent in the undergrowth. Then took the other as just as fair, and having perhaps the better claim because it was grassy and wanted wear. Though as for that, the passing there had worn them really about the same, and both that morning equally lay in leaves no step had trodden black. Oh, I kept the first for another day. Yet, knowing how way leads on to way, I doubted if I ever should come back. I shall be telling this with a sigh, somewhere ages and ages hence. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. I love that poem. I love the whole thing about how he says, I saved the other one for another day, but he knew he would never go down that way.
Mm-hmm.
So true
Yeah,
about
that's
making
it
choices
is.
in life. You know? Yeah, I'll have time to do that. And then all of a sudden there's no time or no way to do it, or you've forgotten about it.
Yeah.
It's a lovely poem.
Uh-huh. I have a poem by Robert Bly. It's called A Third Body.
A third what?
Body. A
Oh,
third body. A man and a woman sit next to each other. They do not long at this moment to be older or younger or born in any other nation or time or place. They are content to be where they are, talking or not talking. Their breaths together feed someone whom we do not know. The man sees the way his fingers move. He sees her hands close around a book she hands to him. They obey a third body that they share in common. They have made a promise to love that body. Age may come, parting may come, death will come. A man and a woman sit next to each other as they breathe, feed someone we do not know, someone we know of, whom we have never seen.
Wow.
Bly?
Yeah, is that BLY?
Bly, yeah, Robert Bly.
Hmm.
What's Robert Bly up to these days? Do you know?
Oh, he died. He died
Oh, that's
this
why I don't
past
know.
year. Yeah.
Was just last year?
Yeah, he hasn't done much in the last several years. He was suffering from dementia.
Oh, that's sad.
But Jim Kahn used his work a lot for his sermons and things. And we went to see him lecture and read different times during the Jim Kahn years.
He changed a lot in his lifetime. Wasn't he also at one time?
He was an anti-war poet.
Anti-war, but wasn't he also anti-feminist at one time?
Well, I wouldn't say anti-feminist, but he was one of the leaders of the men's movement.
That's what I'm thinking of.
'80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wrote a book called Iron John, that men needed mentors. Their fathers really didn't give them enough,
Right.
and that they didn't dig deep enough into the problems. Their ashes, what he called, is going down into the ashes and work amongst the ashes.
Yikes.
I'll change the subject. I'll read you a poem called Happiness.
Okay.
It was written by A.A. Milne, who also happened to write
Oh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah.
It goes like this. John had great big waterproof boots on. John had a great big waterproof hat. John had a great big waterproof Macintosh. And that, said John, is that.
Yeah, I have a book of A.A. Milne's poetry for kids, little, with
Yeah, that's what this is. When we were very young.
when we were very young. There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
wonderful. Let's see. I have another one. Did I read one called The Fish by Elizabeth Bishop?
I did.
You did.
I read it last time or the time before.
I remember because I was looking at it this morning and thinking, this sounds so familiar.
Yeah, and she let it go at the end, right?
That's right. Okay. All right. I'll look for another one.
Did you buy a book of her poems also?
This is actually a book. I meant to buy Mary Oliver's poems, but this is a poetry handbook in which she describes the different kinds of devices that are used in poetry, meter, and all sorts of different things, and gives examples of those. So sometimes they're little things that she grabs out of a poem, or sometimes it's a whole poem. So, yeah,
it's good how you're digging and delving.
Yeah, I'm having fun with it. It's very interesting, really.
It is.
Oh, okay. So this is called I Am Accused of Tending to the Past. This is by Lucille Clifton. I am accused of tending to the past as if I made it, as if I sculpted it with my own hands. I did not. This past was waiting for me when I came. A monstrous, unnamed baby, and I, with my mother's itch, took it to breast and named it history. She is more human now, learning language every day, remembering faces, names, and dates. And when she is strong enough to travel on her own, beware, she will.
She's good. I think her dad was an official in the government. He was somebody important because I read her. She comes up all the time on my poetry thing.
Wow.
You guys know so much about these authors. It's just amazing to me.
Yeah, but I'm older. That's why I do. I've got one I wrote the other day. It's short. I didn't realize what I was writing until I read it out loud. And I realized what I was writing. It's called The Day I Stopped Making My Bed. The day I stopped making my bed, you might not know, but I will. As I stumble and tumble slowly down this hill, grasping at dried weeds, long dead roots of trees, looking up now and then to see where I've been, then down needing to know how far I must go, arriving before the spring rains, settling in before the first snow. The day I stop making my bed, I'll have no further place to go.
Wow.
Oh my.
Yeah, it's deep, man. When I read it, I thought, oh my gosh, did I say that?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's what happens when you get older.
Gee.
Wow.
Why
don't you read something, Jean? I'll be right back.
Sure. Okay, this is a little poem by Robert Frost called The Pasture. And actually, it's interesting because when I read it, I recognized the words, and it's because it was put to music, and my choir, the concert singers, sang it.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. There's a lot of music that's put to poetry, and I don't remember who did it, but anyway. I'm going out to clean the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away and watch. I'm sorry, I'm going to start over again. The pasture. I'm going out to clean the pasture spring. I'll only stop to rake the leaves away and wait to watch the water clear, I may. I shan't be gone long. You come too. I'm going out to fetch the little calf that's standing by the mother. It's so young, it totters when she licks it with her tongue. I shan't be gone long. You come too.
Hmm.
I just love how brief it is. It's this little photograph, of going out into the meadow and the little calf with its mother and tottering on its
He's
leg.
still special. There's something about how he can do rhymers and he can do ones. And one of my favorite is a long one that's not rhyming. Have you ever read The Death of a Hired Hand?
Yes.
I love that. I love it. I love how it moves. But always, he's a real poet because what he writes, it always has rhythm. It always has a feel
I
of
know.
poetry about it.
I know. I just looked at West Running Brook today, and it's really long. It's too long to read here.
Mhm.
But I used to love it because it's a conversation between two people. John, which way does the brook run?
Mhm.
North, something like that. North. But the brook runs west, and everything else runs east, apparently, into the ocean. West Running Brook, then call it, and it runs by contraries. And I think I was in a poetry class in college. I had one class on poetry where we talked about running on contraries, and we looked for that in real life and in people, and it was so interesting.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that. That's interesting. And when I buy books, I make, maybe it's a mistake. I buy the complete works of. So I've got all these things, and sometimes they're really crummy. I've got the complete works of Edward Lear. He's interesting man though, because he draws as much as he writes poetry, and he does the worst. So the drawings are so bad they're good. I mean, and kids love him. I mean, I'm glad I got it, but I can't read them because they're not that good.
Wow. Okay. Okay, so here's one other. Pardon me. Wow. The last word of a bluebird. As I went out, a crow in a low voice said, "Oh, I was looking for you. How do you do? I just came to tell you to tell Leslie, will you, that her little bluebird wanted me to bring word that the north wind last night that made the stars bright and made ice on the trough almost made him cough his tail feathers off. He just had to fly. But he sent her a goodbye and said to be good and wear her red hood and look for skunk tracks in the snow with an axe and do everything. And perhaps in the spring he would come back and sing." I just,
that?
that's Robert Frost.
It's
I love
that one.
Wow.
that he uses the device of the crow saying that the bluebird told him to go tell this little girl goodbye because he's flying south for the winter. I just love it. It's so inventive. It's so, I don't know, lovely.
I have a poem opposite, not winter, but summer. It's by Tom Apsher. He's a Vermont poet. He taught at Goddard College. I met him years ago at the late 80s. No, late 70s, actually. This is a book from 81. A friend sent it to me as a gift. August. The afternoon air is so still and heavy with heat. Everyone in the house has gone off to nap. I feel the tap water run a while over my fingertips, waiting for the cold stuff to come from the spring. Bulkhead clouds appear in the kitchen window, comically grand. Time settles over the edges of the house like a glass dish, and except for the white butterflies flashing in the tall grass, the world has seemed to stop. This could be the very moment when the shrubs and the weeds will have reached their full growth, and the water cools in my hand. A silence works its way down the hayfield, across the yard, into the house. It is in my presence. I can feel it with the tiny bones in my ear.
Wow.
That's so good. And I like those tiny bones in the ears.
Yes, really. Oh my gosh. You know, I heard on NPR last night, there was I guess it was the entertainment editor who was talking about different things that were happening in LA. And apparently there's a musician who just wrote a song about being in the belly of a whale.
Oh,
And I thought, that's so interesting. What would that feel like? You know, so I may write a poem about it.
oh, wow.
The kind of thing I just never think of those things, you know, and hear these poets think of these wonderful things.
I think you're starting to think of them now. And I think your poetry is less personal maybe, and you're going outward somewhere.
Maybe. So here's another frost. This is called A Time to Talk. I'll show you the picture. I love the illustrations.
Oh, nice.
Abby, I don't know if you can see it, but it's a picture of a block wall, a stone wall, and there's a cart with a man in it behind a horse, and then another man on the other side of the wall with a crook in his hand standing in the meadow. So, A Time to Talk. When a friend calls to me from the road and slows his horse to a meaningful walk, I don't stand still and look around on all the hills I haven't hoed and shout from where I am, "What is it?" No, not as there is time to talk. I thrust my hoe in the mellow ground, blade end up, and 5 feet tall, and plod. I go up to the stone wall for a friendly visit.
Wow.
I think
Oh,
we who live in the city among so many people, so much density, I don't think we have these kind of experiences very much, you know?
yeah.
No, we don't. That's what makes that kind of fun to listen to.
That's right.
Any
Yeah.
of you ever lived other than in a city?
No.
Suburbs.
Well, I lived in small Cape Cod towns.
Counts. My dad bought a farm once. He was a poor inner city kid. When he made enough money, ideally the farm is better than anything in the world, and he had to hire a hired hand to do the work, because we had 24 cows and we had 200
Yeah.
pigs and we had a bunch of chickens.
Wow.
My mother had a candle eggs and she hated bugs, and that's the reason they moved eventually. She couldn't stand the bugs.
Oh,
Wow.
no.
Wow.
You had 200 pigs? I know that she's frozen. 200 pigs. You had
Wow.
200 pigs?
Oh, yeah, there were lots of chickens. There were laying hens and there were fryers. And we had, I don't know what else we had. We had one dog who went crazy with a farmer's dog. We hired a farmer. And he kept racing around the pigs and chasing the pigs around. Well, that would give the pigs heart attacks because they're so fast. I mean, they could drop dead. So we had to stop that, you know, so there were problems.
So did you eat the chickens and?
Oh, yeah. And sold the eggs and sold the milk. And once a week along the gravel road there, we had to put the milk out in big stainless steel cans with big tops on them. The farmer did. We had a hired hand because my dad was still working in the city.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I know. So it was a real farm.
Wow.
And my brother wanted to be a farmer, but he ended up being a landscaper, I guess it was. Farming was too complicated, but anyway, it was a wonderful experience. And they bought the farm when I was away at college. I was so mad. So I only got to be there in the summers, and it was Wonderful. I loved it,
Yeah.
personally.
I bet.
Wow.
I want to hear about the milk jugs. They put them out on the.
Put them out. I don't know what you couldn't carry them by hand because they were big. They were like more than 3 feet tall, all filled with milk. And when you have cows, you don't just have black and white ones. The Holstein cows give the most milk, but you have to throw in a little brown and white ones, the Guernseys and the Jerseys, because their milk is richer. So then you have the weight. You weigh the milk and you get paid according to how heavy it is and all that.
Oh wow!
It's
Wow.
so cool. I'm sorry, I'm taking too much time, but
No, it's a whole
I'm
different
remembering it.
world.
Yeah, I used to go up to a farm for a week or two every year, sometimes a week in the winter, or upstate New York. When I lived in Queens, New York, we'd go up there. It was my mother's cousin, and the cows would be at the gates ready to be milked early in the morning. He'd have to get up 4 in the morning to milk them, and then they would work their way all the way down several fields and then be back at 4 in the afternoon to be milked again.
I think they felt
was
pretty
weird.
uncomfortable. No, they felt uncomfortable. The milk
Yeah.
was building up in their
Yeah.
bags, and they needed to be milked.
Yeah,
they-
so I know those things that the milk eventually goes in those big things, that he would have
Yeah.
someone come by with a truck and they would take the milk away.
That's right. At a certain time, because you had to keep it cold, and you had
Yeah.
to do the
Oh my
right.
gosh! And did you sell the pigs for ham and bacon?
Oh, we didn't have. Oh, there was one mother pig who had so many young that she didn't have enough teats for them. So my brother fed it, and it followed my brother around, and it made a bond. You've seen these films about geese that follow the airplanes, and those things. Well, it was like that, but I'm sure it went to market because they were not permanent.
Yeah.
I can't stand it. I couldn't be a farmer where I had to kill any of the animals.
Wow.
No,
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
Oh, what great stories!
Yeah, being a farmer, I mean, it's a 12 to 15 hour day job, 7 days a week. When they came to visit us once, or anytime they left that farm, they always had to hire people to take care of the farm for them.
Right.
Because it was a 7-day-a-week job.
Right.
It's a long,
And an animal could
tiresome job.
An animal could get sick. You
Yeah.
call the
Yeah.
vet, you got to come, or it could be giving birth. I mean, they're giving birth
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Farm
remember one
animals
cow.
need to have somebody help them give birth. Maybe they do.
Yeah. Yeah, they do
Yeah,
most of the time.
Sometimes
You
they
want
come
it-
out.
Go ahead, Carol.
Sometimes they come out wrong, just like humans. Breech birth.
Yeah.
Imagine a breech birth with those long legs. I mean, that wouldn't be
Right.
too nice.
Yeah. We had to bury a cow one time that ate mistakenly. I guess there was a piece of barbed wire fencing that fell and was underneath grass or something, and they ate barbed wire. And we had to dig a big grave for them.
Did you ever write poems about happenings like that?
No, I haven't.
I mean, how would you even do? Robert Frost could do it.
Yeah. I've got a poem about a book, actually, when I thought about that wall as a thing. This is a book about a thing. It's by Tom Apsher, the Vermont poet. The book. The floor of the room is bare except for a book, lying half open on its spine. Sun shines through a window on its pages. A page stirs. With insect slowness, it inches into a small arc and then stretches upright. The page wavers, falls to one side. Perhaps the book is waking up, or the book is still asleep, dreaming of reading itself.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I love that. Oh, it's wonderful.
Poetry is so neat because you can write about so much stuff.
Little detail of the page lifting and waving.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Do you guys ever think that everything is alive? I mean, even your computer or your telephone, there's a life in there somehow. 'Cause that's what you're talking about, the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm reading the book for the Committee for Racial Justice, Braiding Sweetgrass right now, and she's talking about trees talking to each other.
mhm.
Yes.
And
Oh, I can't wait to start reading it. I haven't
oh,
yet.
it's wonderful. I'm really close to the beginning, but she talks about the fact that Native Americans have always talked about trees talking to people and to each other, and that the white man doesn't really believe that, that scientists don't believe that. But there have been discoveries that there are, trying to think what they're called, fungal, I think it's rhizomes underneath the earth that lie along the roots of the trees, and that there are these little kind of pathways in between the trees. And apparently there are these pheromones, kind of like hormones, that travel along these pathways in between the trees. And if one tree is in trouble, like for example, if it's got beetles under its bark, then it can signal that it's in trouble, and other trees will arm themselves against the beetles, and only one tree will die. It's fascinating,
Wow,
Oh,
really.
wow.
that is really
And there's
neat.
and there's another thing that happens along those pathways, and that is that carbohydrate that's built up from, I guess it's from sunlight and carbon dioxide, that they breathe in. That helps them to make, material for them to grow, and that it's balanced out. It's shared equally among all the trees in the area along those pathways.
Hmm.
This is fascinating, really interesting.
Next, you should read about fungus. I took a class in
Wow.
mycology once,
Wow.
and that's the same thing. Fungus are not animals and they're not plants. Go figure.
Well, and then viruses are not even alive. Go figure
Oh.
that one.
Say that again?
Well, if they're not alive, how can we kill them?
Viruses are not alive because they don't. This is technically because they don't eat, they don't poop, and they don't grow. They just they commit actions, but they don't have many of the qualities of living things. They take over the DNA in a cell, but they don't. Anyway, so that's what I learned as a biology major.
Mm-hmm. No, I love learning all this, and I love being able to identify. We were going to go out in the woods and pick one of these big fat white funguses and eat it.
Oh my
But
gosh.
we couldn't find one no, we went on a tour, whatever.
Wow.
Anyway, I
Wow.
love all that stuff too. Why do we not write about these unknown things?
Wow.
That's something we can do before next time.
Yeah, maybe I'll write something about unknown. This is
The
a very dark poem, I think. It looks dark. It's something I haven't read in a long time. This is from 1978. Woman as a needle. I am living in a fog over Hong Kong, melting down on the killing floor. The word I has no meaning for me. I could be the one wearing the hat, or it could be someone else playing my part. I no longer think in terms of I. It is a grim wall for ballerinas to dance around. I no longer know my senses, or what my ears long to hear, or what my mouth dares to speak. The horror of trying the slow motion somersaults this life has taken. It's too much of a struggle to control any fall, a drunken move, hypnotic plunge done with grace, tension, with a wide grin and every romantic gesture I ever came across. I seduce the needle that is so in love with me. Intercoursing with my arm, it goes down the alleyways of my veins where even a black cat must find courage to creep. The needle kisses steam on my skin, whispers in sexy tones, my tracks won't slow you down. Traces lost in winter's wet blanket. Oxygen the trying to breathe in and out, escaping into blurred evenings of surreal Chinese illustrations. I am overcome by the charm.
Oh my.
I like that charm part. I'm overcome by the charm. It's how you look at things. We all look at things so differently.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a big surprise though. What the needle really was.
Yeah, yeah, it's a woman. The needle's a woman.
Well, I thought that she was actually injecting drugs.
No, no,
Are you sure?
no. The needle, it says, I seduce the needle that is in love with me. The needle, the woman is the needle.
I thought
Who is the I then?
Me.
Oh, you wrote it.
Yeah, I wrote it.
Oh, you wrote it. Oh,
Oh,
Yes.
you should read
In
it again if you have.
1978.
now could you read it again?
Oh,
Please.
okay. Okay. Woman as a needle. I am living in a fog over Hong Kong, melting down on the killing floor. The word I has no meaning for me. I could be the one wearing the hat, or could be someone else playing my part. I no longer think in terms of I. It is a grim wail for the ballerinas to dance around. I no longer know my senses or what my ears long to hear, or what my mouth long dares to speak. The horror of trying the slow motion somersaults this life has taken. It is too much of a struggle to control any fall, a drunken move, hypnotic plunge done with grace, tension with a wide grin, and every romantic gesture I ever came across. I seduce the needle that is so in love with me. Intercoursing with my arm, it goes down the alleyways of my veins where even a black cat must find courage to creep. The needle kisses steam on my skin, whispers in sexy tones. My tracks won't slow you down. Traces lost in winter's wet blanket. Oxygen, the trying to breathe in and out. Escaping in the blurred evenings of surreal Chinese illustrations. I am overcome by the charm.
Oh, golly.
Wow. Now you wrote that a long time ago,
Yeah,
and you wrote it about something that your life.
that was, yeah. And probably not, it was a relationship that wasn't very good.
Sounds
Oh,
like it wasn't very
I wondered about that.
Yep, we've all had those. Oh my gosh.
But you got to keep it.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta own it.
Got to own it. Right.
Well, I have to run, and
Okay,
good luck with the bees.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
definitely good luck with the bees.
well, that'll be interesting. Okay, everyone, it's good to see you
Yeah.
again.
Thank you, everybody. Yeah, it's
Thank you.
important to me. Hope we keep it
Okay.
up.
Yes,
Bye-bye.
thank you for coming.
Take care. Bye.